to start the recording, and we'll go ahead and get started. I just literally finished my previous session. This one, I wasn't sure if anybody was going to show up because nobody in this class indicated any times on sessions. And I did send out a note this morning asking people to let me know if they were going to be in it today. But you're here, Alexander, so I've got you marked on it. And I will look. So it's been busy. Okay. Let me look at the calendar real quick to see where we are. And I believe y'all got chapter 1 for 2 weeks. Yeah. And chapter 1 is taking you through configuring TCP/IP. Because this is the networking server class. So we went through, you've been through, you took 2451 from me, didn't you, Alexander? And I think you took I think you've taken both server classes already also. So basically everything that's going to be covered here in this chapter, you've covered in other classes. Because they go through and show you how to do subnetting. They talk about the different type of IPv4 addresses and about subnet mask. So they do teach you a little bit on how to convert binary numbers to decimal and vice versa. And then they talk about how to do the subnetting on it, but they're very brief on it. So it's nothing like what I taught you in 2451 on subnetting. I think, let me look and see. I'm not sure if I put some extra stuff out there for y'all on that from back then. I know I gave you at least my binary book that shows you how to do binary to decimal and opposite on it. At least I should have. Gave you the information IPv6, which is covered in here also, that I had. I have to have my book out here. I will have to add that. So later today, I will add that one in there. But I think, if I noticed correctly, I think y'all have all actually done the first assignment. No, nobody's turned it in yet. Correction. So I will put my binary book out there. I'll also, my videos that I've got on subnetting, I will add those out there. And if they're not, let me look at one other thing. They may be in a different spot here, in which case I need to move them. Not move them, but I just need to copy them over. Nope, I don't have them anywhere in here. I need to put those out there. So the videos that I had for you back in the Cisco course on how to do subnetting and how IPv4 addressing work, I will add those out there, and I will also add out there my little book on how to do decimal to binary and binary to decimal, and about what number systems are in general, because that's what they're doing in here. And then, so that's a big part of this chapter, and then setting that up. So then they talk a little bit about the ARP command, which allows you to put in a MAC address, and it'll tell you what the IP address is for that machine. That one's not really quite, it's used out there and it's used in the background for sure as it's working and sending stuff across. They didn't really mention on DNS right here, but that's going to be a critical part in the whole part, which I think we'll get into maybe next chapter. Yes, DNS will be covered in the next chapter. So you'll get into how the domain names all work in terms of that. They talk about the trace route command, which is the ping command glorified. Ping will give you a connection, but if you can connect to a specific address. Also gives you a time of the time back and forwards on the connection. Trace route, which is trace RT in Windows, which is what we're doing in here. Or if you were doing it in Linux Unix, it's trace ROUTE is spelled out. The reason for the difference is because Windows comes off of DOS, and DOS used 8-character commands. And so trace route spelled out was more than 8 characters, so they abbreviated, so came out with trace RT. What it will do is not just send an ICMP protocol command out to the other device and tell you if there's a connection there and how fast did it travel there, out there and back. It will tell you every router it passes through on the way. Now, for that, 2 ways that can be handy. One is to know how did it actually get to the other place. You may need to do some reconfiguring of your routers and stuff within your organization and outside if you find it's taking too long of a route around. And 2, if it doesn't get to the other device, so you're not being able to connect to the other device, be it a web server or another machine, that wherever you're connecting for, traceroute will tell you where you got to, where it died. So that'll tell you where your problem is. What routers, they'll tell you the last router you got to, and then you'll know what the next router is supposed to go to. And so that one's dead for some reason. Either the router's dead or the connection between the two is not there. So now you know where to go trace your problems. Back when I ran the network for Swainsboro Tech and was taking care of everything there, if I got reports on people couldn't connect out, that I could run traceroute, and it would tell me if it was the route, one of the couple of routers we had in the school, or if it was hitting when we went out and went through the state network and then we got out on the internet. So then it would let me know if it was on the state network where it was, or I'd know it was on out on the internet. If it was on out there, I couldn't do anything about it. If it was within the school, I could go see what was the problem, or that it was hitting the last one in the school but wasn't getting on out beyond there. Then that told me maybe our connection had failed. So I had to go check and see if something was wrong with our connection to the internet was bad. If it was getting out of there but dying, it might be that I knew, wait a minute, state's got a problem at this router, and I could call a proper person at the state and tell them, whoa, y'all got a problem right now, and y'all need to check on this router that's at a certain location, and that they could then work on it for me. So traceroute can be a really useful one on. So they show you how to set up in the chapter also to put your settings in there. They talk about your common port numbers. Be aware of a number of those. The FTP ones of 20 and 21. I would know those. Those come in handy later. Telnet's 23. That one is quite often on certification test. SMTP is 25. That one appears a lot of times too. Now, we don't really use Telnet anymore. We're using SSP instead, which is not on this list. Which is 69, if I'm remembering right. TFTP is 69. I can't remember the number for it then. But Telnet will appear sometimes on tests and stuff, although you really don't want to use Telnet normally. Because you want to use secure shell. And the SMTP is sending email, so know that one of 25. HTTP is your web pages. In normal format, it is 80. If they're secure web pages, which means they're encrypted, it is 443. Do know those. POP3 is not going to be used much anymore. You're usually using because you don't normally use POP3 anymore. You use that's for email receiving, but you're actually working on them on the servers now, so you use different one. That one's out for a moment. DNS uses 53. If you ever do something with Amazon, with AWS, their DNS stuff, actually, they have their program to work with DNS is Route 53. Let's go to read the name of it. Notice the port number is in there, and routers are what you're going to discover in the next chapter. You work with DNS also, so it makes all sense right there. DHCP, which will put your addressing out there, uses 6768. TFTP, wouldn't really worry about that one, or SNMP. So that's the big ones on those. Did I start the recording? I hope I did. Yes, I did. Okay. For your pen and paper assignments, you can write it and take pictures of it or scan it and send those in, or you can type it out there in a Word document for me. So then they talk a little bit on through with IP version 4 addresses, like I said, and show you all of that and how to calculate your mask. Remember, IP version 4, they're 32-bits long, or 4 octets that are 1 byte each. And then they should mention to you Class A, Class B, Class C type things. So they're going to take you through those, have you do some conversions. But like I say, you can take a picture and send me the JPEG file of where you hand write the stuff down. Just make sure it is readable when you take it. So you can take it with a phone and get the picture. That'll work for me. It doesn't have to be. So then they talk about some other approaches on it, some how you can do it at command line. And so they show you some PowerShell commandlets to do that. Generally, you're going to put them in addressing stuff. You're going to do it at the GUI, but you can do it at the command line also. And for instance, if you're running yes, you can go ahead and do it in Word. Just make sure your name is on the paper, okay? So they do talk about IP, about ping in here, which I already told you about. Tracer I told you about. ipconfig will tell you what all your configuration settings are. That is a very useful command that I use lots of. The net shell commands to set your addresses in there and stuff on your there's servers that are just command line. You would use those on there, which for some reason has gone out of my head at the moment. Your server core servers, you would use those at that point, but you can look up those net shell commands or net sh of how to set your addressing in there on to do those. So they take you through, have you used some of these commands, and that those will work nicely for you. I don't think you'll have any problems with those. And then they talk about some on the IP6 addresses, and I think I did have that one out there for y'all. It's not there. Let me see. I will try to get these out there to y'all this afternoon, posted in there. Yeah, I think IPv6, I had my little summary information on that. Yeah. I just got to add the other stuff in there. If I don't get it added this afternoon and you're wanting to see the stuff, send me a note to remind me, because I could do on that. We're using IPv4 and IPv6 in the world out there today. I expect at this point we probably got at least another 5-10 years of IPv4 around, although we've run out of addresses, but we're switching to IPv6 and you'll gradually move over. So I think within the next 5 to 10 years you'll see the complete shift on that. But you are shifting, but it's still a lot of IPv4 running behind the scenes on stuff, although you're starting to move towards on the other. All right, questions for me on chapter 1. You got any for me today? Okay, good. Then I guess I did pretty good on it. So if you do have questions, email them to me and I will get back. I did answer emails all weekend, including yesterday, because I answered a couple early yesterday morning and then I answered a couple later last night. I will be answering emails normally all day, every day, and then in the evenings I usually will, but I don't guarantee that I will in the evening, and likewise on weekends. I usually do answer them during the weekend, but sometimes I could get busy on other stuff or be where it's not easy for me to do. So we'll just see along on that. We'll have the sessions on Tuesdays at 11 from here on, except for there's probably a couple of things I'll get in the way along the way, and I'll have to reschedule the sessions to a different time. So we'll see how that all goes, and I'll give you all a heads up beforehand. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and let you go and tell you to have a good week and talk to you later.